The average player will receive somewhere between 15k to 18k tokens in a single season without spending money. And with some insane cards and some really bad cards in every season, it is important to understand that this is your budget for free-to-play players and season pass-only players. And in this video, I'll give you a complete buyer's guide to the strength of each card in the season so you know what to prioritize, what to skip, and what you should absolutely buy. Without further ado, let's get into the buyer's guide. Spider-Punk is the newest season pass card coming out this season. He is a 3/3 with the text, "You can move this card once. When this card moves, steal 2 power from the highest enemy power card here." How this works in practice is Spider-Punk's ability only really becomes active the first time you move him. So he starts off as a 3/3 and he only gets to his 3/7 true stat line if you are to move him once. If you're able to move him again in an unnatural way, like playing a Hellion so he doesn't move by himself, but you get someone else to move him, he will effectively become a 3/11 because on the second move, his ability will reproc again. So for me, Spider-Punk is a generically applicable card in the sense that he very much reads to me like old Nocturne and old Rocket and Groot, where if you move him once and a self-mover at a 3 cost is just a generally strong thing to do. If you move him once, he's premium stat line, he's just a strong card, and a lot of decks would like that. The second thing is what archetype will you most likely see play in? I think he'll be seeing generic play in mid-range decks, but moreover, I think he'll specifically see play into any of those mid-range Miles Morales decks, because Miles Morales can get a lot of value from that single mover with premium stat lines. You're very happy with that. Also, he'll be seeing play into these like BYU style decks that kind of meld the move and affliction, and he'll be an absolute must in that. So overall, I think Spider-Punk will be an extremely good card with specific cases and specific decks that he'll want to be played in and be absolutely irreplaceable. But in a more general sense, if you're playing him in general mid-range piles, I think he'll be replaceable with like a Copycat, a Gladiator. There's a bunch of good generic cards that are kind of Spider-Punk. So if you're looking for him a generic way, he's kind of good. If you're looking at him in a specific way, he'll probably be really good, especially in decks that either can get value from him, his one-time movement, or decks that happen to be able to move him twice for him to get to like a 3/11. So my assessment is, I would always buy the season pass. It's a ton of value already. I think Spider-Punk will be a good season pass, and I think he'll be above like a Galactus First Steps level season pass, but obviously below like the Sam Wilsons and like the super good season passes. Man Spider is the newest super premium pass card with the stat line of a 5/1 with the text, "On reveal, merge the last card you played into this. When this merges, double its power." So how this works in practice is the last card you played could be on any lane, and you can play Man Spider on any lane, and he will merge that card, effectively moving it like a Ghost Spider and merging it into Man Spider. Let's say you played a Call Obsidian there, he will double Call Obsidian's power, making him a 5/11 times 2, which would be a 5/22. Notably, an interaction with Mind Spider is, let's say you play Mind Spider onto an Agony lane, he will then merge with the Agony, making him a 24 power and duplicating that to a 48 power. And that is how Man Spider will work. Man Spider is an extremely narrow card that won't see a lot of play in decks that aren't built around him. However, in decks that are built around him, he will be absolutely irreplaceable in these merge style lists that don't really exist right now, and I don't think will be super meta viable into the future. For that reason, I have to assess Man Spider as not a super meta viable card, even though he does have extremely strong text. The style list you will play him in is these multiple merge style lists. Maybe you spice in like a Penny Parker, you definitely spice in an Agony, and the core gameplay loop as Man Spider will be, I play a big guy, Man Spider absorbs him onto like an Agony lane that you just left hanging. Agony doubles up on the Man Spider, so you merge one more time. Man Spider doubles twice, and he's like 40 power. Extremely daunting to do when that does work out. However, these merge style lists aren't really that great, and when Man Spider isn't in your hand, you're almost always losing with these merge style lists. It'll be an extremely draw dependent deck. For this reason, I have to say that Man Spider is definitely not a for sure insta buy, but I wouldn't say Man Spider is a don't buy at all. I think Man Spider would be a low priority buy if you do have extra tokens, or if you want to use a more experimental list that is more fun. Superior Spider-Man is the Series 5 card releasing on November 4th. He has the ability, at the start of each turn, you get +1 energy if you have any cards with increased power in play, and he is a 3/4. How this effectively works is as long as you have any card that either buffs another card like Agony, or a card that buffs itself like Sam Wilson or Cassandra Nova, Superior Spider-Man every turn will give you a bonus energy for a total of 3 bonus energy within a 6-turn game. To me, Superior Spider-Man is going to be a really overhyped card. I don't think he'll be bad, but I don't think he's as good as people think he is. Why is this? Well, Superior Spider-Man really, to me, seems like a low investment ramp option that is solid, but not overly great. Superior Spider-Man is asking you to play these early buff-style lists, which is not a huge deck-building ask. There are cards like Silver Saver, Sam Wilson, who buff themselves early and will get Superior Spider-Man online. In that sense, I think people are correct in assessing that he has a low ask to get your ramp. However, I don't think Superior Spider-Man's stat line is quite good enough. At a 3-4, it's not like, it doesn't seem to me like a really, really good 3-drop. It seems to me like a good 3-drop that could be a role player in these mid-range ramp style lists that want to play like a Juggernaut plus a 3-cost on the last turn, or like a Silver Surfer style list that wants to play an Auxiliary Man plus a Surfer last turn. However, I don't think like that's a dominant thing to do. We can see with like Luna Snow. Luna Snow has a 3-6 stat line, and I think most decks that play Superior Spider-Man, you could probably replace Superior Spider-Man with Luna Snow, and you wouldn't be hurting that much. Yes, you do give your opponent a little bit more energy, but usually you can use the energy more efficiently than your opponent. And in another sense, Superior Spider-Man also can give you multiple energy per turn, like a Hope Summers can in a Kitty Pryde deck. For this reason, I think Superior Spider-Man will be in a high priority buy, meaning he will be one of those cards that you might be considering alongside one or two other cards in the season at maximum, but he won't be in those insta buys where you're not even thinking about other cards to buy. Websling is a Series 4 card releasing on November 4th, and it is a 1-cost spell with the ability, on reveal, next turn you can move one of your cards away from here. Effectively, this is a 1-turn Madame Web. Websling is a very narrow card that is releasing specifically for the move archetype. The way I need you guys to think about Websling is they are releasing another Aranya, they're releasing another Madame Web, they're releasing another Ghost Spider, another Iron Fist. So if you don't play those style of lists, I don't think you really need Websling. But speaking on those style of lists, I think Websling might be a meaningful way to put your cards basically back into the Madame Web to get even more move value. And I think he'll fit nicely into that ecosystem that is move and the move engine of just keep on moving your cards into the Madame Web, moving them out, moving them back in, getting a ton of reprocs to move. I think Websling could fit nicely into that bundle of move cards. However, he will not be generically playable, and I think he might even be replaceable within the move archetype. Like I've said, I've just named a bunch of cards that move cards. There's also like a cloak, and there's like a ton of cards that move cards. I don't think Websling is above and beyond any of those cards. For this reason, I would put Websling as a low priority buy on the budget list, because he's probably replaceable in move list, and if you aren't playing move list, you aren't playing Websling. So unless you're an absolute move head and you're like, oh, I need all the move tools, I would recommend buying Websling in that case. Otherwise, a low priority buy that you don't really need to care about, but you might buy him as a luxury buy because you have an extra 3k tokens that you could throw out Websling and have some fun with move. Ezekiel Sims is a Series 5 card releasing on November 11th, and he is a 2-2 with the text, after you play a card with higher power here, give this +2 power and move it to another location. Effectively, how this works is if you play a card that has more power than Ezekiel Sims currently shows, Ezekiel Sims will move to another location, and you could do that multiple times within one turn. So Ezekiel Sims theoretically can move 3 to 4 times in one turn. You play a bunch of high-powered cards, although that won't happen that often. Ezekiel Sims to me reads like a card that is better than he actually is. One of the major problems I have with Ezekiel Sims is that he doesn't actually fit into that many decks, and I think you need to make the most out of his movement aspect to truly get the most value out of him. So what does that mean? I think he'll see play into specifically 2 style lists. One style list, or these Hydra Stomper style list, where if you're moving Ezekiel Sims anywhere between 3 to 4 times, that's 4 power onto a Hydra Stomper, and I think that'll be a generally strong, powerful thing to do, alongside Silk can make a very, very big Hydra Stomper. The second style list might be like a Miles Morales mid-range style list. The list that immediately comes to mind is BYU, which plays Miles Morales as well as increasingly big guys. So you'll be able to get the most out of your Ezekiel Sims scaling up and up and up, as well as be able to get some extra value out of those movements with something like a Miles Morales for not that big of an ask. So what does this mean in the grand scheme of things? I think Ezekiel Sims will be a strong role player into decks that have these natural movement elements and scale off multiple movements, but I don't think he'll be an overly necessary card to most of us. If I were to place him on the token scale right now, he would not be an insta buy. He would be in those high priority buys like the last card we mentioned. where you're choosing between Ezekiel Sims as well as maybe one or two other cards to spend your tokens on, and you're only really getting maybe one or two of these cards as a high priority buy. A lot of things are currently up in the air with Chameleon, but he is currently data mined to be releasing on November 11th as a Series 4 card. His ability is on reveal, copy the text of another card here, you reveal this turn. He is currently, to my knowledge, releasing as a 2/4, although there could be a typo and he may be releasing as a 3/4. I'm not entirely sure, if I'm being honest. How he effectively works is he is a single turn Prodigy, where Prodigy looks at the card in front of him. Chameleon says, I'll do Prodigy's ability, being able to copy any card, but you have to play this card and Chameleon on the exact same turn, rather than Chameleon looking for a card in front of him. Chameleon's absolutely cracked at a 2-cost stat line, and I think at a 2/4, he is absolutely one of the best cards in the entire game. Why is this the case? Well, Chameleon at a 2-cost stat line with 4 power has to be giving a premium because he has a premium stat line compared to his peers. On top of that, if you read Chameleon's effect, at a 2-cost, it just reads as the best force multiplying effect in the entire game. Immediately, I think about Chameleon's main play lines being on turn 4 and turn 5, where you're playing him alongside a Carter for a ton of value, automatically winning a lane, basically, or playing around him with build-arounds that have good text, something like a Goliath, or even like a 3/9 speed, who just generically has good text, just creates a ton of value in that sense. And I think basically any of those 2-cost or 3-cost that you're building around that have good text and aren't like Gladiator, you want to play with Chameleon, and Chameleon might just win you that lane because he's playing for like a 210 into most games if you're using your build around alongside a Chameleon, and that is a crazy amount of force multiplication that a lot of decks can use to up their ceiling. For this reason, I think at a 2-cost, Chameleon is an absolutely must-buy for 3k tokens, and he is a bargain because he's like one of the best cards in the entire game. At a 2-cost, I can't recommend him more enough. If Chameleon were to move down to a 3-cost, I think he would be in those high priority buys where you're selecting him between 1 to 3 cards. And I think he would probably fall in between on the lower end of the high priority buys. But at a 2-cost, absolutely a must buy. And I can't recommend him enough. He seems absolutely cracked to me. Spider-Man Noir is a Series 5 card releasing on November 18th. He is currently a 4/6 with the ability on reveal. If your other cards in play cost exactly 8 total, add the top card of your deck here, set its power to 8. Spider-Man Noir's ability could be put into 2 sections on how it works. First of all, it counts up all the cards on your board, including tokens for like Sam Shield or Squirrel, and if they cost exactly 8, then he effectively does Jubilee's effect. And with Jubilee's effect, where Jubilee just pulls the biggest card, he also sets that card to 8 power, making small cards into big cards. Spider-Man Noir, to me, reads like some absolute dog shit, and here's why. First of all, Spider-Man Noir reminds me of these 4-cost activates where you only have one single turn to activate it, and if you don't play it on this one single turn, the ability is basically useless. And cards like that with these very, very narrow ranges just end up being really bad unless they have a really strong ability to go alongside it. Like a Galacta in the past really only had a turn 4 window to get the most value out of her, but you ended up playing her on turn 4 because she had a really strong ability. I don't think Spider-Man Noir is in that tier. On top of that, Spider-Man Noir asks a lot of you from a deck building perspective, because most of the time, having 8 cost on your board is just not a natural thing you get. How do you end up getting to the 8 cost? You need to play tokens. Something like a 1 cost into a Mr. Sinister, 2 and 3 cost will get you to that 8 cost, or you can play Spider-Man Noir on turn 4, or something like a 2 cost plus a Shadow will get you to that Spider-Man Noir. And when you get the actual ability of Spider-Man Noir, even if you did all that deck building ass and you are fine with that 1 turn window, I think he's not that much better than like a Jubilee. Like a Jubilee can pull like an Infinite, and that's bigger than the Spider-Man Noir. You can also blink a Jubilee, and Jubilee can be played on any turn. It's a lot wider of a net that something like a Jubilee covers versus Spider-Man Noir is extremely narrow, and he is like roughly a Jubilee power. And for that reason, in good faith, I can't recommend Spider-Man Noir to you. So on the buyer's tier list, I would put him at the don't buy, or only buy if you have extra tokens, or you're just trying to play a fun deck, because there's almost no way this card is going to be meta viable. A lot is up in the air about Deafening Chord. He is either set to release as an event card on November 20th as data mined, or some other sources are telling me he's going to release as a Series 4 card with an unknown date. Deafening Chord is a one-cost spell that says, on reveal, afflict an enemy card here that costs 3 or less with -1 power and remove its text. You can think about Deafening Chord as a one-cost Red Guardian, but where Red Guardian is targeted at the lowest power card here, Deafening Chord is targeted at a random card that costs 3 or less in this location. Deafening Chord to me reads like one of the best generically playable tech cards we've had in a while. Why is Deafening Chord so good? First of all, imagine a Red Guardian but only cost 1. If you are able to disrupt any of these 3-cost build around cards or these 2-cost build around cards, you get a ton of value. Turning off a Goliath is insane value, turning off a Ballchok is insane value, turning off a Bullseye is insane value, and there's a lot of value plays you can see just because 3-cost and 2-cost do have good tech. And Deafening Chord will just be one of the best ways to deal with those good techs 2 to 3 costs. Now, on a bit of higher level, what decks will be able to run him? Well, he'll be generically good in a bunch of decks. I think Merlin Royal by Night decks will just basically always run him because he's a 1-cost spell, and those decks just love 1-cost spell. Otherwise, I think any deck that can fit a tech card will be running him, especially if they can fit a 1-cost later into their curve as just a curve filler. So if a deck's naturally playing like a 5-cost plus a 1-cost on the last turn, Deafening Chord might just be another good option to play there in the same way that those decks were running Electro with like a Miles Morales. Overall, I think this card will be insanely strong, meaning I have to put him in the must-buy tier. And I think for 3k tokens, this is an absolutely bargain deal. And if you aren't buying Deafening Chord, I don't know why you aren't buying Deafening Chord. I think it'll be an insane value card that you will regret not buying if it shows up in your shop on that week. Hydroman is an event card set to release on November 20th with the text, on reveal, set the cost of each deck's top card to 1 power, and he is a 5/8. Effectively, this card works like anti-venom for both you and your opponent, but instead of making it a 0/0, he makes each card's cost just go to 1, keeping the same amount of power. Hydroman is a card that reads better than he actually is, and that's for one simple reason. It's extremely hard to justify a Hydroman. What are the 2 ways you need to justify a Hydroman? One, you could be a Mobius deck and you have to draw Mobius and then you can play a Hydroman. Your opponent gets none of the benefits, you get all the benefits, you're benefiting from that transaction. However, I don't think most decks that are already running Mobius necessarily want to run a Hydroman, and usually you'll need to run a bit of a higher curve to run a Hydroman already, so it might be a bit of a weird justification for a Mobius. Maybe a Pixie deck could justify it, because Pixie already wants to play Mobius. Stacking a Hydroman onto that might just be value. The second style list that can really justify a Hydroman is something that's running an extremely large curve. Think about a Hella list that runs like half of its curve at 5+ cost. A Hydroman might be able to fit there, but those decks already have very tight windows of what cards it wants to run. It might not be able to overrun like a Blink or a Legion in that slot, but those are interesting decks for to run. Because Hydroman will be into these narrow set of decks, I think I can't in good faith recommend Hydroman high on the tier list, so I kind of have to put him on the low priority tier list. If you're playing these extremely narrow style lists that I don't even know if he'll be optimal, it may be worth a buy. Maybe you wait and see to buy him, maybe you don't. However, since he's a free card in the newest event, I think you should just get him for free, try him out in these higher ramp style lists, try him out in like a Pixie with a Mobius. Maybe he works, maybe he doesn't. I think that will be his niche either way. I just don't know how strong he'll be in that niche. Prowler is a Series 5 card releasing on November 25th, and he is a 3/4 with the text on reveal at 2 Thief Tools to your hand. To save time, I'll be showing the Thief Tool on screen, so you can pause if you need to see them, but I won't be reading them out to you. The second part of his ability is set their cost to 0 if a card was moved last turn. What's notable about Prowler is that he only sets their cost to 0 if a card was literally moved last turn at the point of an on-reveal. So if you were to play Prowler on turn 3, you have to move a card on turn 2 for the Thief Tools to be free. If you move a card any later than that, they will be costing 1. Prowler is a goated card for several reasons. First of all, he's a generically playable card that could just see value without even using his move aspect because he has strong skills that most decks could use at least 2 of them, if not all 3 of them. And on top of just having strong skills, he acts like a Merlin Arcade Bishop where he's a curve filler, where you're getting those values from those skills, but you're also getting value from just filling up your curve in an efficient way and using all your energy on all the turns because you're using that 1 extra energy on Prowler onto a preceding turn. On top of that, Prowler can also get specific value into specific decks, which might make him even stronger. To me, something that immediately pops into my mind is Prowler in a BYU style list can get those spells for free. Not only can he get those spells for free, but that Affliction spell gives -2 to two cards, and that makes Abomination -2 cost. You're getting even more value from Prowler in that sense. Basically, any deck that can get Prowler to have free skills is an insane amount of value, because when those skills are free, they are really, really good as a free resource you can use. Any werewolf list can use Prowler, because those free skills essentially become 2 free moves a werewolf, which is a ton of value. So with all this in mind, I think Prowler will be a very, very strong card into this metagame, and I think he is absolutely hitting the first card that is a must-buy tier level card. And if you don't buy Prowler, I think you're wasting your 6k tokens on buying something else, because Prowler would just be that good of a card into this season. And with that, our tier list is complete. I would recommend you spend 12k tokens on the Prowler, Deafening Chord, and then Chameleon, and with your remaining 6k token budget, you buy any of the cards that I put in the high priority cards. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a comment on what cards you are most excited for in the season and what cards you plan to buy with your limited 18k budget, and tell us why. This might help someone in the community make their purchasing decision more informed, and helping out the community is something that I think all of us should do, and something that I try to practice every day. Without further ado, I'll say peace out to you guys, and see you guys in the next video.